Welcome, willkommen,
Bienvenue, добро пожаловать, витamy,
benvenuto,
ようこそ
to This Week in Voice Live.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody out in the voice community. And welcome to our special guest host, returning in his role, John. John, good morning.
Good morning, Emerson. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you as well. Where are you calling in from today? Looks a little different than last week.
I made it to Maryland, so I've traveled across continents since we last spoke, so not too bad.
Nice. And spoiler alert for everybody out in the audience, I too actually am heading to Maryland, so my background will be a little bit different than the next time you see me. Yeah, let's dive in. We have a great episode here for everybody today. In terms of format, we're going to be talking about some news from the last week of the voice industry. We're going to be doing an interview with Rob Walch, who is the VP of Podcaster Relations at Libsyn, which is one of the largest podcast hosting platforms in the world. And we're going to be embarrassing ourselves with our drawing skills in an epic game of Drawful that everybody out in the audience can actually participate in as well. So should be fun. So yeah, let's get to the news. John, would you like to start us off?
Sure. So this week was Google I/O. Now we did have a lot of stuff going on this week, so I did not get a chance to really catch up on what happened until this morning. But I did find the announcements really interesting, and especially regarding Assistant. There were two announcements that I sort of joined together in my head, which is more advanced widgets that you can interact with. So you think about the traditional Android widget that would show you the weather or show you some fitness information. Now, you can interact with those via voice, but additionally, they're embedding them into the Google Assistant interface, which I think is really pretty cool. And it seemed interrelated to another announcement they made, which was enhancements to the interactive canvas, which I'm not sure everybody knows about, but that's the ability with a Google action to essentially deliver a web page that then people can interact with via voice. And now with the interactive canvas, in those, if you're a developer for voice using that, it used to send it to like a webhook, onto a server if somebody interacted with your canvas. Now it actually will interact directly with that web page locally, and it does NLU locally, it does text to speech locally, and what I see Google doing is, essentially allowing people to build these nice HTML displays that then people can talk to very naturally, and developers can build for really easily. And being able to make HTML easily voice interactable, I think that's something that is obvious and good. And then the way that they're embedding it in different places, the idea that it could be an Android widget, the idea that it'll go into the Google Assistant interface on your phone, which people are probably familiar with. It's great. I mean, I think they're building on great technologies, and they're delivering it in a way that is going to be, I think, appealing to people. So I thought those were interesting announcements that Google made, and yeah, I look forward to trying out more. Both of these things are not actually readily or generally available yet, so there's some details missing, but I think it's good stuff.
Yeah, it did strike me as interesting. I mean, I think the widgets is amazing functionality, and for from a voice first perspective, probably a lot more. A better native experience than the app actions were previously, and I guess this is part of app actions, so perhaps an evolution. The interactive canvas, at least to my understanding, is still, for better or for worse, limited to games, educational content. Like you said, it's not something that's really broadly available. And Danny Bernstein was on the Voice Den earlier this week, talking about that very thing, that it's they're still constantly evaluating, seeing what other kind of areas they want to open it up to. But it does seem like something that would have widespread appeal if it were open to the broad actions on Google market.
I think so. So what was Danny's rationale for the fact that it's not widely available?
Yeah, interestingly enough, so he said that Google takes a strategy that they want these to be voice first and predominantly voice only interactions, that they want multimodal and interactive multimodal where it enhances the experience, but they want to shy away from people just tacking on an interactive multimodal experience to essentially copy over what they had in a mobile app. Keep the mobile type functionality, the GUI type functionality in the GUI world, but for specific voice use cases that are really enhanced by an interactive screen to bring that over, which I thought was a little odd, just given how overwhelmingly multimodal all Google Assistant interactions are. I mean, the vast majority are on a device with a screen. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that's a well-reasoned rationale that just, I'm not sure the evidence supports, as you point out. I mean, like, the use cases that we see that work all benefit from being multimodal. I mean, they may still be primarily voice-driven, but I think they benefit from being multimodal. And the ones, yeah, so I mean, I think anyone who's found a good use case with voice would like to use the interactive canvas. But I don't know. I jump ahead. I assume they will roll it out broadly. I think it's such a nice feature. There's other technologies out there like APL that I may have said I despise. I don't see, like what's the need for another presentation language? We have HTML, and so I think Google's on the right track and they should extend it. But I guess it's not a given. Maybe they won't. That would be too bad.
Yeah. So in switching bases a little bit, in other news, this was a big week for valuations and fundraising in the voice world. Company ASAP, which does machine learning for call center agents, raised $120 million. I think it pegs them at like $2 and change billion for valuation. It was their Series C. And it's a pretty neat product. It predicts what customers are going to say next to sort of arm the human call center agent, and then monitors the sentiment of what the caller is saying to see what's the best way to interact with them or to respond to them going forward. Lets a single call center agent manage multiple simultaneous calls at the same time. And we, like at Bespoken, we've talked about this a lot. We saw customer service as a great opportunity for conversational AI. But most of what we've seen to date has been focused on, the customer interacting with a virtual agent, not a virtual agent supporting a human agent. But there's been a ton of investment in that same space in the last year. Gong, which is a somewhat similar company that does sort of sales enhancement with AI, got $200 million. Replicant, which is an IVA, got 27 million. Ultimate.ai, Observe.ai, Cogito, CallMiner, all had really amazing early stage fundraising in the last year. And I would have expected that would have come a little earlier, perhaps during the pandemic. But it really is nice to see, both legacy companies as well as new startups supporting what for many businesses is a really demonstrable ROI in conversational AI.
Yeah, and I mean, those numbers are just incredible. And I guess I read these announcements, and I obviously, as somebody who works in this space, it makes me feel good. I would love to hear more about the traction these companies have in these announcements, because it's like, like if they have the conventional traction that would justify that round, I mean, that's really stunning. And I don't know, kudos to these companies. I mean, that's, I think it does support, I guess, our general thesis that and other people's thesis that the contact center will be, where conversational AI is really deployed at a massive scale. And I guess it makes me think these guys are already doing it. It's not necessarily in the future. It's already happening.
Yeah, it is. And I guess what's the adage that a rising tide lifts all boats, or something along that line. Like, it does give me hope and give me confidence in the sustained growth and success of that market.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, let's have a chat with our guest. Let me bring him up on stage. Rob, good morning.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today. And where are you calling in from?
Nashville, so just south of Nashville.
Nashville. Oh, very nice, very nice. I look forward to getting back to Tennessee in Project Voice early next year.
Yeah, it's. I just moved here at the end of July last year, so I've been in kind of a COVID lockdown since I've been here. So I think last weekend was the first weekend we actually got out to a restaurant since I moved here.
Wow. Well, yeah. So thanks for joining. So I guess to start off, do you want to tell us what Libsyn is all about for people that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, Libsyn, which comes from Liberated Syndication, is where the name comes from, was the first podcast hosting company started in November 2004. So predates Apple supporting podcasting. And by downloads and number of active media files, we're the largest podcast host out there. And we have over 75,000 paid podcast hosts with us, which is important, not the dead ones, but real actual podcasts. And big names folks are familiar with. Dave Ramsey hosts his podcast with us, Joyce Meyer, Jeff Dunham, and many others, big names.
And you've been a podcast host yourself for going on 17 years or so, Podcast 411.
Yeah, I started podcasting late 2004 as well.
That's amazing. And I mean, Podcast 411 is an incredibly reputable, very influential and well-known brand, but your background is not in podcasting. What
Not at all.
Yeah, so like what made you want to do it, and how'd you find your way there?
Yeah, my background is in quartz crystal oscillators. I spent 16 years in the quartz crystal oscillator industry. So I'm now just finally have spent more time in the podcast world than I did in the quartz crystal oscillator world.
Wow.
And it really, podcasting to me was just, I had just gotten my MBA from UConn in 2004, and all of a sudden I had this free time in my evening, and I was traveling for work, and I said, I need a hobby. I need something I can do when I'm traveling, because I was one of those people that was traveling 4 out of 5 weeks. And it's like, okay, when I'm in the hotel room, I need something to distract me with just being in this hotel room. And I didn't want it to be video games and online poker. So I chose podcasting, which of the 3 Ps is actually probably the best choice. And I'll let people figure out what that third P is. But yeah, it just was the right time, right place in the fall of 2004, and I just got into it, and I've loved it, and quickly quit my day job and jumped into this thing both feet, and have been full-time podcasting for over 16 years.
Wow, that's it takes a lot of dedication to keep something like that started as a side project, or started as a passion, to keep something like that going.
Yeah, especially the early days. Apple didn't even support podcasting. So if you went into iTunes back in the early days, you didn't see podcasts in there. It wasn't until June 2005 that Apple started to support podcasting. Unlike what Tim Cook said, Apple didn't launch the podcast industry, even though his video on back last month said they did. I was like, no, that's not quite accurate. I need to give that credit to Adam Curry and August Trometer and Dave Weiner.
I mean, and so in terms of what's happened with podcasting, I mean, could you have ever foreseen when it's become, because even I think back to like 2014, I was doing some stuff in the podcast space. And just since 2014, the change is like unreal to me, much less since 2004.
Well, actually predicted this change. I actually wrote an article right before we took off saying, here it's coming. This is the next inflection point, and here's why. And a lot of people want to give it credit to Serial, but I wrote this article before Serial launched, and I said, here's what's going to happen. And it's iOS 8, podcast app went native. That was the inflection point. It wasn't Serial, because if it was Serial, podcasting would have died Serial season 2, right? Because that sucked.
Very good.
But the growth was on iOS, and it really there was, like, I would say there's 3 inflection points so far in podcasting. The first was when Apple supported it with iTunes in 2005. The next one was a subtle inflection point, which is when the iPhone came out in 2007. Now you had this device that you could download podcasts to directly. But the big one was when iOS 8 came out and the podcast app went native, and people go, what's this purple app on my iPhone, and why can't I delete it? And just that, in early days, you couldn't delete it. Just that, people started clicking on it, tapping on it, figuring it out, because there's only so many native apps that Apple puts out. And that really helped podcasting more than anything. The next inflection point will be when Android has a native app. We're not there yet, but that will be the next inflection point.
My wife is an avid podcast listener, and she listens to them on double and triple speed, so she can listen to as many in a day as possible. And but does lament that she has a slew of different apps for for each of the hosts that she enjoys. That there isn't a consolidated, simple platform that, like you said, that Apple has been able to successfully get people to use.
Yeah. When you look at the consumption in podcasting, it really comes down to Apple's number one. And what we see, Apple ecosystem, that means Apple Podcasts, iTunes people still use iTunes. That Apple ecosystem is about 60% of the downloads. And then number 2 is Spotify, 13%. Despite what eMarketer may want to say, Spotify is a distant number 2, but they are head and shoulders above number 3, which is Google Podcasts at 2.2%, 2.3%, I think, last month. So Google Podcasts is slowly rising, but overall, iOS to Android, the ratio is 4.5, 5 to 1, iOS versus Android consumption. So the consumption in podcasting is still heavy iOS versus Android. And smart speakers, 0.3% for smart speakers. That's it.
I mean, that is remarkable. And do you think, like, what do you make about Clubhouse? Do you think that people that are podcasters are going to move over there? I mean, how do you think that?
I think of them the same way I think of bell-bottom jeans.
It's incredibly fashionable.
Yeah. I'm wearing them. Right
Look. In podcasting, we've seen distractions from Second Life. We've seen distractions from Meerkat and Periscope, and now you see it from now you're seeing it from Clubhouse. But ultimately, it's not a really viable alternative. People want to listen when they want to listen, not when they have to listen. Live always falls to on demand, right? Netflix. People watch more Netflix now than they do live TV. It's the same thing. You look at if you look at your services, if you were to actually add up what you're paying each month, most people are paying more now for the add-on services for the streaming stuff that's on demand than they are for the live.
I mean, that kind of goes with one of our friends, Ian Utilli, who's the founder of Attention.live, which lets you broadcast, but then also monetize your content across your voice content across smart speaker platforms, but virtually every voice platform or podcast platform under the sun. And an interesting use case that he does is actually converting live Clubhouse rooms into podcasts for that very reason, that not everybody has the time, not everybody has the devices or has the access to be able to get into a Clubhouse room. But if you are some kind of personality, if you are just a general figure in the industry, and you want to be able to provide that same intimacy, that same outreach to the broader community, you need something that is that has more lasting impact. You need something that get people when they have the time and ability to listen.
It only works for certain types of shows. Most shows sound much better when they're edited and well
Sure.
produced, right? And most people are not good live. People think they're good live, and then you have to go and listen to all these awkward dead
Yeah,
spots, right? And so editing is really important. And there's certain shows that just will never work in a live environment. Hardcore History, Dan Carlin, one of the most popular podcasts, that would never work in a clubhouse environment, just because of how he does his show and how particular he is to get everything right. So a lot of the history podcasts wouldn't work in there, but there are certain shows that do work for it, and taking it from Clubhouse and repurposing it as a podcast, you're going to find your audience is much bigger as a podcast than it was in the Clubhouse. We've seen this with live audio before and other live services, Live 365 and all the live services that have died in the past. About 0.5% of your audience that showed up live would show up on demand. So 99.5% of your audience was on demand, 0.5% was there live. And that just, you listen to Leo Laporte at Twit when he did the live stuff and he had the podcast, he would give similar numbers as well. So it's all over the place, whether the shows are technical or entertainment or whatever. Unless you really need that interaction with the audience, most of your audience shows up on demand.
Yeah, I mean that is that's something that we see here with This Week in Voice Live, that we get 20x more, something like that, on demand in the time afterwards. That not everybody has the time to be able to grab a cup of coffee or a Red Bull in my case, and dedicate part of their morning to getting updates and hanging out with us. So,
and I always tell people that the worst thing you can do is take a show that you've been producing heavily for many years and then try to move it live. You'll lose your audience. If you don't edit it then afterwards. But if you can't see a reason to have live, if you can't say, here's why we're going to be live, we're going to have questions from the audience, we're going to have interaction with the audience, then don't do live. But if you're going to say, hey, I am going to interact with the audience, we're going to use them as part of the content, then live is perfect. Live is great. Still, however, if you're going to make it available as a podcast, go back and edit a little bit, clean it up.
Yeah.
Too many people take that live and just repurpose it. And then now they're competing against other folks in the podcast space that do edit. And those folks, they're just comparing what they think is apples to apples when they're really comparing apples to oranges.
Well, speaking of audience participation, you want to play a game and see if anybody wants to judge our drawings?
Well, I'm going to lose.
I think two of us are going to lose here.
Yeah. I feel confident I will lose.
All right. Yeah, let's see. All right. So everybody's in. Let's get this. I'll wait for John's little picture of himself.
I have to draw a picture of myself first? Oh, Lord. This is already embarrassing.
I have my very regal llama there. It's not quite as impressive as the actual logo, but
me and John are going to be fighting for that bottom spot.
Yeah.
All right. And for anybody out in the audience that would like to join and judge, the code is up there in the top left of the screen, UKWE.
Let's go.
And here we go.
Okay,
This
will
will be
Your
interesting.
devices. Something
Oh,
kind of
geez.
weird, like slam poetry or haunted bread box. Draw a picture on your device that would have that title, and when you're done, hit send.
Did you guys get prompts to start drawing?
Guess your title. So, have fun.
No. Oh, yeah, I did. Oh, Lord. There's no delete button, is there?
I don't think so.
Oh, no.
If you're still watching, wishing you could somehow play along, you can still join the audience by going to jackbox.tv and entering this room code.
How long do we have on this?
I think up to a minute.
And do we have a chance to explain our drawings? Did I feel like...
So after you draw it, then everybody else has to guess what they think that you drew.
Oh.
Hello.
It's not going to happen.
I don't know.
Well, I guess I had more time there. I already clicked submit just because without an erase button, I was just making it erase.
Rob, how's your drawing coming?
Oh, if someone guesses this, they are psychic.
Let's take a peek at your
Let's see if there's any
drawings.
psychics in the audience.
All right, here we go. Oh, this was my one.
Use your device to type in whatever the heck the prompt for this drawing could be.
So now you guys have to write what you think it is, and then you sort of vote and pick. Obviously, pick not the one that you thought it was, but pick which one you actually think it is.
And here are your choices.
All right, beer drinker,
One of them is the
duh,
title.
coffee breath, and poison coffee.
And here are your
All right,
picks.
let's see. Nice.
Coffee.
Rob, good job. You got it. Oh man, and taking an early lead. We'll say it's beginner's luck.
All right, let's do another one. Put in your titles now.
Well, that looks like something to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello.
Here are your choices.
Ambulance going the wrong way. Driving to the hospital, ambulance trip, and hydrogen. It gives, since there are only 3 of us, it gives one fake answer every time. And I think we can see which one is the fake answer.
Hello.
Okay, who picked what?
Hello.
Yeah, there we go. I got some points. Ooh. Nice. Yeah, that was great. Gonna be enough? Oh. Oh, Rob, I caught up. This
All
is
right,
gonna
well,
be.
I think that's going to be the final standings.
Title now.
A talented artist could have really had fun with this.
Hello.
Okay, here are your choices.
Snowman and Snowwoman, Frosty the Snowman making a snow baby, socialism, and Pope Party. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, come on, pick one.
Well, maybe.
And here are your picks.
Ah, damn. Pope Party. Yeah, nice.
Nobody
Oh, I
looked
got,
at that one
oh, I
well,
got
but-
0. Oh, no.
But you guys didn't look at that and write Pope Party, right? I mean, you know.
No, that was one of the.
Drawing thing again. Prompt should be on your devices now.
Oh boy. I'm feeling pretty confident about this one. Rob, we played this with Jeff Blankenberg, who is the current principal evangelist of the Amazon Alexa team.
Now that I've got all your drawings,
And you would have thought that Jeff had a tablet in front of him with a drawing pen and that he was a professional artist. I mean, his drawings were incredible. He also plays this with his family, so he has, I guess, a little bit of practice.
hurry up, people. Just type something in.
Right, we got calculator, calculator help, huge calculator, and I love me some sriracha.
Let's see what people picked.
Oh, you got some points there, John. Nice. Now you got even more points. You're actually catching up. Rob's lead continues to widen.
Okay,
Oh.
next drawing. And here are your
Whatever, feeling empty inside, Robot Hole, and Theta Man.
And here are your picks.
Yeah, nice. There you go. Feeling empty inside.
Uh-oh.
I'm feeling empty inside with, oh! Alright. Alright, one left. Let's see if I can maintain this.
Type in a convincing title now. Okay. here are
Aussie,
your choices.
Whimsy, I'm Rock here, and Mud Boss.
Okay, who picked what?
Nice. Yeah. I don't know what Mud Boss is, but that was exactly what you had drawn. Oh, I think this is the first time that's ever happened, actually. A draw.
A draw and druffle.
Oh, actually, and it really was you that won, because you You got 7 likes on your drawings. That was pretty good. Well, Rob, thanks so much for joining. It was great. Great to hear your insight. Great to get to pick your brain a little bit this morning.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for having me on, and we look forward to more podcasts coming to Smart Attendance soon. I want to see that 0.3% get to at least 0.5% by the end of the year.
Right.
And how can people reach out to you or find out more about Libsyn?
Any questions about Libsyn or podcasting in general, feel free to email me, Rob, as in Robert, R-O-B, at libsyn.com, Libsyn.com.
Fantastic. Rob, again, thanks so much. John, great to see you. Everybody out in the audience, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time.